Yeah, I've had tickets that you couldn't buy, which are given to me by people who have gifted them to me as a freebie. I've had that, as I'm sure you have over the course of your career as a journalist from time to time. But I tell you what, she shouldn't be taking free tickets from anybody, because whoever it was, and my understanding is it was a financial organisation who have a box at the O2, she shouldn't be taking freebies from them, because surely that could be seen as somebody trying to exert some kind of influence over her.
She knows she's on the back foot. Look how many times she went, I mean, we need someone else who does that, don't we? The Prime Minister.
Oh, yes.
How could she possibly use the phrase, I thought it was the right thing to do? The right thing for you to do, Rachel Reeves, is to work on sorting out our completely tanking economy, not to be seen to be taking hospitality and having a good time. I'm sorry that when you actually have that job as Chancellor of the Exchequer, your life isn't about having a good time. After all, you're doing an awful lot of things that are making other people's lives an awful lot more difficult.
Exactly right. And come Wednesday, I mean, I don't know where she's going to go. I mean, I've just been speaking to Dave Penman from one of the civil service unions, who used to be a lot more vicious and nasty about government. He seems to have sort of rolled over and become like a pussycat. He was saying how, well, it's not for the civil service to decide how big it is. It's down to the government. So I basically said to him, so what, you're going to be okay with all of these redundancies? Well, we'll just have to see. We'll make sure people are treated. I mean, can you imagine the Tories suddenly announced they're going to get rid of 50,000 civil servants? They're howling. You'd be hearing it all the way down Whitehall and up to Covent Garden.
Well, we did hear that. I mean, I was a reporter on the Sunday Times as political editor when the Conservatives tried very hard to do this. The campaign was led by the then Francis Maude, worked in the Cabinet Office. Yeah. And he worked very hard to try to cut the civil service very substantially. And he has since, quite recently, written about how difficult that was. Because Labour sources, Labour activists put up such resistance within the civil service itself and beyond. Now, the Tories did manage to cut the civil service quite substantially before 2016, and then, hey presto, it went rocketing right back up again. And was it the same interviewee, Mike, who was trying to claim that the government is already saving loads of taxpayers' money by using less office space? I mean, this is nonsense.
It's just not true, is it?
The vast majority of them work 1 or 2 days a week in the office. That's, they grace the office with their presence on those occasions. And that means that the government has to keep the offices up and running, even though they are half the time like ghost ships. Yeah. And before anybody...
But I'm not aware of state offices or, like government's departments, buildings being sold off in Whitehall, are you?
None at all. I mean, if that is the case, then it is a very exceptional story of a government triumph that they're not actually trumpeting. And since they spend the whole time trumpeting triumphs that aren't actually real, I think we'd have heard about it if they're selling flagship buildings on Whitehall for multi-hundreds of millions of pounds, because these are vast buildings. And I'm sure they're worth a huge amount. He made an example, but I think that example dates back absolutely years ago.
Yeah, absolutely right. I can't imagine what she's going to do on Wednesday to even save her own job. I mean, it looks very much, from what we're reading this morning, the skids are very much under Rachel Reeves. I mean, do you think there's a possibility that Starmer will finally, even though people have said, oh no, we can't get rid of her really because it will be a bad reflection on him, I think we're beyond that now, aren't we?
Oh, I'm not sure we are beyond that, unfortunately. It's easy to be proven wrong rather quickly, but at the risk of that, I would have said he'll hold on to her for a good bit longer. He might hold on to her until we are demonstrably in recession. Here's hoping that doesn't happen to the UK economy. I mean, if we do go into recession, that would give him a very good basis, as if any more were needed, to shuffle her out of that position. But I think he will wait until those economic indices come in. Hopefully they won't, but I mean, I just see that we're heading in that direction, or at the very least just flatlining. And the idea that they're doing everything to get growth is just a nonsense, isn't it?
As the UK edges closer to a potential recession, questions are mounting over the Prime Minister's priorities, with critics urging a sharper focus on the nation's economic woes rather than accepting high-profile hospitality from the very financial institutions many hold partly responsible for the Crisis. Amid rising public frustration over stagnating growth, inflationary pressures, and warnings of widespread job losses, the optics of the Prime Minister's recent engagements with financial organizations have not gone unnoticed. At a time when families are tightening their belts, the government's perceived coziness with the financial elite risks alienating the public and fueling a narrative of disconnection from everyday struggles. One of the most pressing concerns remains the potential for massive civil service cuts, with reports suggesting up to 50,000 roles could be on the chopping block. While previous conservative administrations have flirted with similar proposals, the backlash from unions and the public alike has often led to retreats and inconclusive outcomes. Dave Penman, General Secretary of the FDA union, who has been a vocal critic of past redundancy plans, has notably softened his rhetoric. This shift hints at behind the scenes negotiations or perhaps a calculated strategy to influence policy without open confrontation. Meanwhile, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is navigating treacherous political waters. Her position is reportedly under increasing pressure, with senior Labour insiders questioning both her policy direction and communication strategy. If economic conditions deteriorate further, her role, and by extension, Keir Starmer's leadership, could be on the line. With murmurs of discontent growing louder in Westminster, Starmer may soon be forced to choose between loyalty and political survival. The economic outlook remains grim. Key indicators: sluggish GDP growth, flatlining business investment, and weakening consumer confidence all point to a looming downturn. Should a recession take hold, it may catalyze not just economic hardship, but a potential shake-up at the very top of government. For now, the country waits to see whether the Prime Minister will recalibrate his focus toward domestic economic repair or risk further eroding trust by appearing more concerned with elite affiliations than the day-to-day challenges of the electorate. As public patience wears thin, the decisions made in the coming weeks could define not just the future of the economy, but the fate of this government. Nigel Farage made a characteristically bold appearance in Frodsham this week, lending his vocal support to a growing movement of disillusioned farmers, protesting what they describe as crippling government policies and environmental regulation. The former UKIP and Brexit Party leader, who has kept a relatively low political profile in recent months, used the opportunity to reinsert himself into the national conversation. This time standing shoulder to shoulder with rural workers demanding change. "This isn't just about farming," Farage told reporters amid the sound of blaring tractor horns. "It's about the heart of rural Britain being torn apart by bureaucrats who have never worked a day on the land. These people feed our country, and they're being hung out to dry." The farmers' protest, while relatively modest in size, is symptomatic of a broader discontent that has been simmering in the countryside for months. Many feel that post-Brexit trade deals have left them vulnerable to cheap imports, while the transition to net zero farming has imposed new costs without sufficient support. The removal of EU-era subsidies under the Basic Payment Scheme, now replaced by the Environmental Land Management Schemes, (ELMIS), has also caused confusion and unease among landowners. Farage's presence is politically significant. Though he holds no current party leadership role, his knack for tapping into grassroots anger remains potent, with whispers of a political comeback ahead of the next general election, and Reform UK testing the waters in marginal seats. His appearance in Frodsham may well be the start of a broader campaign to recapture rural discontent.